we're back to like, I don't want to call it crap weather. It's not as crappy as last weekend when we recorded, but yesterday it was like summer here in Wisconsin. Today we're back to
So
like
nice.
normal March BS.
Yeah, very seasonable behavior happening, but yesterday was so great. It was so nice.
That could just
I know. I thought my kids would have been like way easier today because they got so much outside time yesterday.
no.
No, I took them to paint pottery this morning with my niece. First of all, like the level of anxiety I had walking into a place filled with fragile things with two small boys was like off the charts. They did pretty well there, minus the like, okay, I'm done. Like they painted it in like less than 10 minutes. And they're like, can I paint something else? And I'm like, dude, that axolotl frickin' piggy bank that you just painted is $28. No, you're
No.
not painting something else.
Put some more paint on that piggy bank.
Yeah, like let's layer a little. But oh my God, they've been like just absolute, like crazy, not listening, challenging me at everything, debating everything. I can't even tell you how many times, like just today, I've said, like, knock it off because I said so. Like, just stop.
Well, maybe they do have spring fever. That's a real thing.
Oh, yeah. They are so much better when we are outside. And we are also dramatically decreasing the amount of screen time that they get because I notice a direct correlation to really shitty behavior when they've had too much time in front of the screen.
Think that could be true for all humans. I think that could be true for all
Yeah.
humans.
It's like at the end of the day, you're just like done.
Yeah. Cooked all
You're
my
just
brain
done.
cells staring at a screen all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they do say there's like a ton of like the next wave entrepreneurship kind of stuff coming out, and they're talking about it will all be like real life experiences is like the next where people are going to make their fortunes because we're kind of like coming off of this like virtual hangover. I
Yeah.
don't know if I want to call it a hangover or whatever, but that's like, yeah.
Yeah.
So on that note, maybe someday you and I will plan a retreat and we'll have some in-person experience to go
Yeah.
along with
We
this
do need
podcast.
that. We
But
do
yeah.
need that. Also, like in the warm weather yesterday, I went for a run and I've never done an outdoor Peloton run before. So I did a 30-minute outdoor, but like as I was running, I was about halfway through and it like clocks your location and gives you like a distance. That thing
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah. It's not accurate.
It's not even close. I should have had Strava like running at the same time. So then I like
Well,
naturally, right? Like I had this moment of I was at war with myself of like, I definitely ran more than 2.5 miles. What the actual F? I want the credit for it. And then I was like, you know what? Just shut up. It's nice out. It's fine. Who cares? You know in your head that you ran more than 2.5 miles.
yes. I do love those Peloton runs for like when you need a coach in your ear though, who's like, okay, and
Mm-hmm.
now we're gonna do this. Like that's super helpful rather than me like staring at my watch every 10 steps to be like, okay, have I hit my 2 minute interval or whatever?
It was nice. And
Yeah.
they were long blocks of work. It was like 8-minute blocks.
Yeah, that's a lot in a 30-minute run.
There was an 8-minute block and a 7-minute block and like a 3-minute block for like moderate cadence specifically, but like, or pace. But yeah, yeah, it was really nice out yesterday and it gave me like, I need summer to be outside in
Anytime.
the sun and like just get like vitamin D and just not have to have a coat on. The kids were playing wiffle ball outside in shorts and no shirt on. It was like, take me to summer where we are outside all day. All day. But yeah. Yeah, other than that, it's been a pretty chill weekend. Went to dinner last night. Got a new book that I'm excited to start reading. It came in the mail yesterday, so I really haven't gotten a chance to like read into it. But When Working Together Doesn't Work, an Enneagram Guide to Productive Relationships with Coworkers. How exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That is
I'm sure I'll be finding you, right, and verbally processing some of these things this week. I'll be like, hey, so I read this thing. Kelly's like, Jesus Christ.
so that book is one of Suzanne Stabile's children who are
Yep,
taking up
Joey.
who are taking up her Enneagram work. And Joey, I'm pretty sure Joey is an 8. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think they have 4. Do they have 4 kids? I think they have 4 kids. One of them's a 4 too. So,
Cute little taglines at the bottom of each of these when it starts with the type. Enneagram 8, I didn't come to work to make friends.
I have literally heard 8s say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And definitely if they're C-suite level 8s, they definitely carry that.
Yeah. Enneagram 9, can't we all just get along? It's the 9. The 1, my work is an extension of who I am.
All right.
Very interesting. So I'm
Yeah, we'll have
sure.
to unpack that at some point. That is not what we're talking
Yeah.
about today specifically, but before we get into that topic, to Enneagram Adventure. This is Tana and I's podcast where every week we talk about some development related something through the lens of the Enneagram. Sometimes we stay super on topic. So if you listen to last week's episode, we stayed on topic. We made it through every number in kind of a core construct way. This week, that may not happen.
Yeah,
Fair
get over
warning.
it.
Yeah.
Everybody get over
But
it.
yeah, Tana and I are IEQ 9 certified coaches with that Enneagram tool. So if you have interest in the IEQ 9, you could hit us up about that too. Anything you want to add
Yeah.
before we jump in?
Just my normal disclaimer, the Enneagram is based off of your core motivation rather than your behaviors. So as you listen in, you'll hear us talk a lot about behavior, but you have to remember that each number is solving for something and has a core motivation tied to those behaviors. So you'll hear a little bit of that each week, but excited to jump in.
Well, this podcast was inspired by a reel from Rich Roll, and he's talking about willingness. I wonder if I can get it to. And the idea in the willingness, right, is that like you can't do anything. You can't work with people who aren't willing, right? Tana and I talk about that all the time too. Of like you can only work with the willing. We say that all the time. You can only work with the willing. You can only work with the willing. No matter how bad we want somebody to do something, if they're not willing to do it, it doesn't make any difference. But I'm gonna try to play this on here. We'll see how that goes.
Energy field. And willingness is like this energy field, and you have to court it kind of like the muse, but you can't just make somebody willing. We see this all the time in the rooms of recovery. Like if you're not willing to do anything different, like there's no reason for you to be here. And you can tell that person all day long and do as many interventions on them as you want. But, until that person decides that they're willing to make that change for themselves, it's all like hot air. It's not going to do anything. That's why pain and suffering is so vital, because these are the catalysts or, that ignite willingness. Like when you're in enough pain or you've suffered enough, then suddenly you're willing to do something you weren't before, right? And why these experiences that we have in life that are painful, or even when we volunteer for suffering, It's because it's so deeply related to our relationship with willingness. It brings that to the surface.
Okay. No idea if you could hear that, but
Yeah, I could
okay.
hear.
So we're going to talk a little bit about, the pain types are avoiding, and and by nature of how type is developed in early childhood, it's all mostly emotional pain. I mean, there could be instances where a type was developed also to avoid physical pain, but most of the time it's emotional pain. And you have to be willing to sit in some kind of discomfort, usually like to make the changes that you want to make. He makes the reference in that clip, right, about like addiction recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And it's we're not going to make it about that. I'm not an expert by any means in anything having to do with addiction or recovery from addiction, but the idea, like, it paints the right picture, right, of the person who hits rock bottom. It's that kind of pain before they'll go to rehab or get better, or whatever the story might be. I think another example could be, someone who has a major health scare. That could be the thing that makes them willing to change their lifestyle in some way to get better. So, like, those are super extreme, painful things to make someone be willing.
Yeah. We've talked about this before, not on the podcast, but I think I've talked about it with Brandon actually, where it's like, I think I asked him, do you think that people who have experienced like more adversity or challenges when they are young are more inclined to seek development earlier in their life? And I think his answer to me was ultimately yes, but I was thinking about that the whole time that I watched that reel when you sent it to me, where it's like you have to experience that pain enough times that you're curious about how to solve it or resolve it in some cases. But I could see how every number has their own version of what willingness looks like or feels like to them. And it could be, directly tied to your point of how they became their number.
Do you think people who experienced it can go either way? So I don't want to generalize at all, but people who've experienced some sort of trauma or some sort of pain early in life, in childhood, often seek self-development work and self-awareness work and have the willingness maybe faster than other people. Maybe the pain they experienced early on drives the willingness for them versus, somebody who grew up in a more stable environment. That's possible. I think, and I can speak for me personally, I remember a lot growing up thinking that something was broken in me or wrong with me that needed to be fixed. And that if I could just find the thing that would fix me, right, then like all would be right in the world. And that started pretty early on. So to the point of willingness, right, for me, this sort of like curiosity about figuring out who I am and it's been many, many podcasts ago now, but I know I've mentioned, right, like I was a self-proclaimed like self-assessment junkie. Like I took all of them. I took the Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, Berkman, StrengthsFinder. There's another one, it's like StrengthsFinder, but it's called something else. Every freaking BuzzFeed quiz, like all of them, right? I was a junkie for that because I was trying to like find an answer to this feeling that something was missing or something was broken and I needed to fix it. But that's like its own different kind of pain. But it started me chasing a self-awareness, a development path, like pretty early on.
Yeah, different set of why for me, I think, because when I really got curious about development work, it was this level of exhaustion of and curiosity about why I didn't know or I didn't feel like I knew who I was because I spent most of my life being what everybody else needed me to be. So I got so sick of that. But also, I looked at my kids and I was like, I don't even know who I am. Like, how am I supposed to shape you to avoid some of the things that I have, you know? So I think it was both of those things. And like just the work that I've done in my career is kind of focused around development and people and their issues and how to make them better and all of that. So I think it was a little bit of all of it, but if you really get down to the root of it, it was this: I had no idea who I was. So something didn't necessarily feel broken. I just didn't know.
Yeah, I think it's still, in both cases, right? It's still a curiosity, right? If I can find out,
Mhm.
if I can go looking, if I can just read the right book, watch the right video, take the right quiz, like suddenly, like all of this will make sense in my life. Yeah.
And god
So
damn it,
there's,
wouldn't that be nice if
oh,
there was just one answer?
yeah,
Like I think
there's not.
that was the thing that really struck me at first because it kind of when you make that realization that it's all of these really painful small experiences or big experiences that will make the change different for you, but you have to do it. And it's not just this like one concept that you're going to find in a book. It's a bunch of things that you have to experience that are super uncomfortable.
Yeah. Thousands of hours
Oh
of
my God.
discomfort.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, just to touch on this a little bit before we jump into it with Enneagram types, is, there's a couple different kinds of pain, right? There's the involuntary pain. That would be like the health scare or a death in the family or a tragic something or another happening in your life.
Mm,
That's like involuntary, out of your control pain. And at some point in everybody's life, there's going to be some version of that,
mhm,
of some kind. There's that, but then there are opportunities for people to choose like voluntary suffering, which again takes a willingness. You have to be willing to take that on. That can also have a ton of benefit, but it's again is learning through the pain. So exercise is an example of that. That's a voluntary suffering. And if you stay on some sort of fitness related journey in your life, you will experience bunches of pain and awareness and learning about yourself and your own capabilities that you didn't have before. You'll do things you never thought you could do. So that's an example of a voluntary. Another voluntary is, having the really uncomfortable conversations that you don't want to or like to have. It could be, sitting in the sauna or getting in a cold plunge or, you know, getting up early when you'd rather sleep in, right? There's like voluntary opportunities also for pain that can teach you something, you know, that maybe if the big moment happens or when the big moment happens, actually you end up handling it better because you've already kind of put yourself through these less intense moments.
Yeah. Yeah. Good reminder on the voluntary and involuntary pain, because we're talking about ultimately when you become willing to do the work.
Yeah.
And what that looks like for each number potentially. So if we don't get through all 9, sorry in advance. And maybe we can cover the rest in the next one, or chat us, DM us if you have questions about it or want to chat about it. But I think this should be a good one.
The other thing I will say really quick on willingness is it can also, the other thing that can bring willingness up for people could be like a decision or something, whatever, a pattern, right? Where you're like, I can no longer live this way. Like maybe it's needing to leave a job you don't like, or cutting somebody, setting a boundary. I don't want to say cutting off, but setting a boundary with someone or whatever. It also comes from that place, right? I can no longer continue to live the way I'm currently living.
And if we think about pain, right, that should be the signal or the teacher in any one of these things. Like that's the light that goes on. That's like, ooh, that's a thing that I need to pay attention to.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe we should do this like a little bit by trying to think if we did it by stances, maybe that will help keep us, because the stances will have like similar things for each number. So that might be a way for us to get through all 9, or at least attempt to get through all 9 in the time that we have left today. So if we start with the assertive stance, which would be 3s, 7s, and 8s.
Yeah.
So if we start with those in terms of their willingness or the pain they're avoiding, maybe that's an opportunity for them to look at themselves differently, something like that. Sound good?
3.
3.
So they're really avoiding failure and worthlessness, basically.
Yeah. That would be the pain that they are avoiding. Most likely driven from something when they were a kid. Either they were super rewarded or only got attention when they achieved things, maybe. So now they've just continued that pattern. Like, I must achieve things, be successful,
Yeah.
blah, 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 in order to get attention.
Well, and if you think about like how they're creating suffering, it's through that constant performance. They're going to create suffering through that pattern of behavior.
It's going to be the mask that they put on.
Numbing, completely bypassing emotions.
Yep.
Are going to be the patterns.
Those pesky, inefficient emotions get in the way. So I'm just gonna try to skate right by them.
But willingness for a 3 would look like slowing down and feeling, like being in touch with the actual feeling that an experience is giving them.
That is also true for 7s and 8s, both of those things, the slowing down and the not bypassing the feeling. We're doing it for different reasons in each number, but yeah, that idea for them, I'm willing to pause, I'm willing to sit in the uncomfortable moment.
I have a note on growth reframes from, like, I think one of our first podcasts. Maybe it was when we were going through the numbers. But a growth reframe for a 3, pain isn't diminishing your value. It like is revealing a little bit of your humanity. Where can you find vulnerability in the pain?
And 3s are likely numbers. I know several 3s that the chosen suffering has helped them a lot, because they can still have their reward at the end of their thing. At the end of the race, they get their medal, they get a PR, they get a whatever at the end of the physical, whatever it is. They can still kind of have
voluntary.
Yes, but then they still go through the voluntary like journey and the suffering on the way to said goal.
Yeah, the voluntary suffering with a 3 is probably significant because they find achievement.
They can still kind of scratch that same itch at the end.
Yeah.
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 So 7s are bright and shining. 7s are avoiding pain, boredom, loss of freedom, right? That's what they're avoiding. And the discomfort for them in the 7s that I know, it's not just, it's the sitting in the moment, really, just like we talked about with 3, but it's a little different. It's the sitting and not trying to make light of it, not trying to like just let it be uncomfortable. And can you sit quietly with yourself, 7, and let it be uncomfortable to like grow through the pain? Are you willing to do that? Because I've seen like 2 ways with 7s. One, it's the crack a joke, right? We're having a serious conversation, it's very uncomfortable, or we're doing something that's very serious, making them uncomfortable, they crack a joke. The other thing that can happen is that they get so uncomfortable with themselves that they then project anger, passive aggressiveness, stuff like that out onto other people because they're so uncomfortable in whatever this moment is.
I have had a couple of experiences with a 7 last week related to this specifically. They made change in a situation just to try to avoid somebody being upset with them when it might not have been the right thing to do. And yet still that person was upset with them when they reached out to me and they're like, well, they're still upset with me. Like, yeah, well, like it's a little bit of, did you try to anticipate you avoiding some pain here? And yeah, it sounds like it didn't solve the problem. So 7s are also fueled by anticipation. But the growth reframe for them is like the life that you want is on the other side of the discomfort. But there is no way around it, over it, under it, like through it is the only way.
Yeah. You have to go through it. 8s are avoiding what they perceive to be weakness or vulnerability. It's really around vulnerability, right? They feel like they have to be strong. And
They create suffering through that armor that they wear over that vulnerability and their intensity. Like that's how they create it for themselves. But then what ends up happening is they're turning vulnerability into anger and intensity.
and when they do that, it's like a release valve for them.
Yep.
But then they could but they could end up damaging relationships that they don't intend, right? So
Yeah,
again,
I
it's
mean,
the
softening and trusting other people is really, really hard for them, but it is the necessary discomfort to get them through to kind of that reframe for them of seeking, like that's how you gain access to connection.
yes. You got to be willing to sit in it though. We're going to say this a whole bunch of more times. You got to be willing. And what is the thing that's going to make you willing? Right? As an 8, I don't know. Is it that you damage a relationship that's really important to you that makes you willing? Yeah. I mean, I guess that's where it's super individual and like everybody's got to figure that out for themselves. Let's do the withdrawing numbers next. So that would be the withdrawing numbers are 4, 5, and 9. For them, for all of them, it's going to be some version of taking up space and being seen, likely the greatest, like,
Yep.
uncomfortable thing. And I say that, and that's a little funny to say for a 4, so we'll just start for 4, because 4s want to be seen. It's important to them to be seen as authentic, special, different, unique in their own ways. And so it's funny to say that like part of the discomfort's going to be being seen for them. But when you're a withdrawing number, that's like a big part of it is like, can you show up? Can you stay in the room? Can you not get lost in your feelings for fours or lost in your head for fives or just completely dissociated and numbed out for nines? Like, can you stay in the room?
Yeah, and like the on the other side of it for fours, you don't have to be the pain that you're experiencing in order to honor it. Like you don't have to be the emotion. You can still honor it without being it. And they kind of create that suffering through the emotional intensification and like the rinse and repeat that creates for them.
I think that fours are internalized feelers, fives are internalized thinkers. And in the case for both of them, just sort of going within this triad too, it's going to also come with part of the being seen is going to be expressing outwardly. I'm feeling a kind of way for fours, or I'm thinking a kind of way for fives, and not just keeping that to yourself. If you're a self-preservation subtype, this is not about subtypes, but if you're a self-preservation subtype, you're going to have to try twice as hard to have that external discomfort or external being seen and sitting in that discomfort and being okay with it.
Yeah.
And it's going to then come with all the thoughts and feelings on the backside of, did I say too much? Should I have said that different? Which is a different kind of discomfort to work through.
Yeah. Five? Resident five?
Well, I touched on it a little bit there as we were talking about fours, but I think again, it's the being seen, it's the not hiding in a corner, it's the speaking up, and it's the willingness to do all of those things. It's way more comfortable to like be the wallflower, to be the support person, way more comfortable than to be the person out front. And so it's the willingness to do that, to show up, to keep showing up, to not let one, bad experience keep you from continuing whatever the thing might be.
Yeah.
So,
do you want to hear my growth reframe that I had written down for five? You don't conserve energy by avoiding life. You lose aliveness.
I think, yes, the conservation of energy is definitely a thing for fives. And there's like I was talking about this I was teaching the Enneagram this last week to a group, and this came up more in the context of self-preservation numbers, but it applies to fives also. But it was this like, if like I know that I need to get this amount of sleep and this amount of right? And like the energy conservation that goes with like boundaries that are like that.
Yeah.
Those I would tell you are like healthy self-care kind of boundaries. And so when we're talking about conservation of energy, we're not talking about I know I need 8 hours of sleep to be like a fully functioning adult. We're talking about the like avoidance. That's the point of that where it says like aliveness. It's the avoidance of something because you are not sure that you have the energy for it. So if I don't have energy for getting coffee with a friend, if I don't have energy for, something that requires like connection to another human being, that will ultimately like steal from my life. Hopefully that makes sense to a five.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
9.
All right. 9. You live with it.
I
Tell
live
me
with
about
it. I think for nines, the willingness to be uncomfortable, I don't want to say it's the hardest for them, but it might be the hardest for them. There are a lot of things where my own curiosity has been the thing that's like driven Aaron to go do something different. Where it's like, no, we're doing this. I'll just give you a quick example. When it was COVID and we lived in the middle of nowhere at the beginning of COVID. And we could only, at this location, we could only get satellite internet. You could not get any other kind of internet. There was no option. There was no cell service where we lived. It was like a true dead zone, which pre-COVID was fine, right? Because you went to work,
Mhm.
like it wasn't, nothing crazy was happening while you were at home most of the time. And if you needed to be more available, like you just went and worked out of a coffee shop, or, you went somewhere where I used to stop at the frickin' top of the hill on the road that we lived on to like finish conversations with people like on my phone in the car, because I knew like once I was in the valley, it was gone. Anyway, so like that's where we lived. COVID hits, and now all of a sudden we both have to work from home. There is no option to go anywhere else. You
Yeah.
can't go to a coffee shop and work. You can't go, like, you couldn't go to the
Mhm.
office. All of the whole world was shut down. And so what, that started in March. By like September of 2020, where we're still essentially living that way, you still can't go to the office. People are masked up everywhere. You still, right? Like you can't just go
Yep.
work in a coffee shop, all of that. I'm
Yep.
completely fed up because the satellite internet is not super reliable. I'm trying to do my job. He's trying to do his job. We're taking turns being the one who goes and works out of the car at the top of the hill. I get completely fed up and I'm like, we have to move. Like, I don't care. Like, we're selling this house and we're moving because I don't know how long this is going to last for. What if this goes on for 3 more years? Like, we can't
Right.
live like
We can't
this.
live like this. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we've made this decision that we're going to sell the house. And we had gone to do a grocery pickup or something, and we're driving home. And Aaron says, you know, I like the idea of moving, but it just really sounds like a lot of work. And I lost my shit. Like literally was like, I cannot continue to live the way we're living. Like, I mean, like really like full on lose my shit in the car
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Because there was such the disconnect, right? The discomfort of moving felt greater to him than the relief that we would feel on the other side of living somewhere where like the internet's not a problem and like your cell
Yes.
phone works all the time, like all of that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm like it's what makes me say that nines maybe are the hardest to get to willingness, right? Because it was such a clear moment for me of like this current discomfort we're in is gotta drive this change. And he was like, moving's a lot of work. So like I have driven like a lot of change that has happened in our relationship and in our lives that maybe would not have happened otherwise.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh my goodness, that is funny. Well, it feels like not that different than, like a 7 or, where you're like, you gotta get through it and then it's gonna be so much better. You gotta
Right.
get through it.
Yes.
Push, pull, drag, whatever it takes.
And once he like finds his way into it, he's like, great, we'll do all the things, we'll go through it. But it's always like for him to find the level of discomfort that
Mhm.
it takes to then find the
It's
willingness,
my
right?
9 sister leases her vehicles. She does not purchase her vehicles. And that's part of the reason. Because I'm already in this process. Like if I stay with it, then I can just get another new car and like I don't need to worry about like moving from that process to like then go find a new car that like I don't know if I'm gonna like and like she's driven Toyotas as long as I can remember because again, like it's just easier. Like I just know what I'm gonna get. Like I don't
Well, I
wanna.
mean, it's the same. I mean, I've had an iPhone since the iPhone 2. Same idea. Same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. moving
right.
to
Compliant numbers, or what's the other thing? Dependent. Compliant or dependent?
responsive is a new one that I saw in this book, actually. First stance
Oh,
is
really?
responsive. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I guess that kind of goes along with compliant, though,
Yeah.
right?
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So they are 1, 2, and 6.
Starting with ones, they're avoiding being wrong, for one, or being bad. They want to be perfect. And the suffering they create is that inner critic and the processes that they go through in their head to make sure that they're right. So that cyclical suffering of, I'm going to go through all of these processes and do all of these things to make sure it's absolutely perfect. And then if it's not, I will beat myself up about it worse than anybody else could.
Yes, I would guess if there's a number with like a super high, like mental pain capacity, I don't want to speak to anybody's physical pain capacity, but mental pain capacity, it's probably ones because they're so freaking mean to themselves. That inner critic, right? So the level of discomfort they've got to get to find their willingness also might be pretty high.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, I'm already like beating the crap out of myself in my head every day. So like how much worse could it get? Right? Like if this isn't changing me, what's going to change me?
I'm meaner to me than anybody else is, kind of a vibe. And the willingness for them is to be okay with making mistakes or being angry or doing the thing that they believe could be imperfect or wrong, but being okay with it.
I think in what we're saying in this too is it's a willingness to put yourself out there and be judged and to set aside your own judgment. Like stop judging yourself. Put your like what's the willingness to just put the thing out there, do the thing, take the action, say the thing, write the book, whatever it is, and stop worrying about if it's good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember the reframe I had for my one friend's. Pain isn't a moral failure, it's part of being human.
You can't perfect
Or
your way
like
out
it's
of
not a
your
badge of, yeah,
or
it's
not a
not like
badge of
a,
honor.
no.
Yeah.
So 2, I think, and I touched on it a little bit earlier, I think, but I'm avoiding being unwanted or unloved. And I'm doing that by neglecting myself, overgiving, trying to anticipate needs, because I'm trying to avoid the conflict in the relationship. That is either the conflict in the relationship that leads to me feeling unloved, unwanted. I could chain a whole bunch of things together on that, but for brevity's sake, I won't. And like I said earlier, I think the willingness for me showed up when I didn't know who I was because I was lost in everybody else around me.
Yep. It's the
So
yeah.
there is a level of vulnerability too that I tie with it where you learn some things about yourself that you don't like, and being okay with it and not hiding it behind, oh, I'm so giving and so helpful, like my intent is good. Like there's some things that need to be suffered through, and there's that piece, but there's also the piece of like stop trying to anticipate the next person's need. Like the suffering that that brings is crazy. Like I can think back to times in my life where that was the case, and it was all consuming, where I remember being like completely exhausted around, I don't know, it was probably like early high school days of trying to anticipate what everybody else needed me to be.
Yeah.
So there's been several moments of rock bottom doesn't really feel like the right thing. It's always been this loss of patience with me. Where I'm like, God damn it, like I'm done with this. I'm exhausted.
Yeah. Where you've worn yourself out doing all the things for all the other people. I think
Yeah.
what you made me think of a little bit was the let them theory, and whether or not you're a fan of Mel Robbins, because some people really don't like her at all. Not the point, but I think that would be a good exercise or a good kind of practice for twos to find, like, what if you let them book their own meeting? What if you let them, like, whatever the thing is, instead of anticipating the need for them?
And it's not this, the other thing that would happen is like this temperature check that I would run through in my head of like, oh, I haven't talked to that person in a while. I should reach out to them. It's like, it's not like I've died, fallen off the face of the earth. Like people have lives, things go on. It doesn't mean they love me any less or like me any less. So I think it's through all of those moments that I notice that exhaustion or lack of patience show up.
The only other thing I would say on that too, for twos in the willingness, would be for them to, if they can find it, the willingness to let someone else help them. Like, let someone show up for you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I think a lot of twos use like the acts of service to really outrun the pain of maybe I don't have a good relationship with that person if I'm not doing things for them.
yeah.
Because then that feels like a loss. Or you turn it inward and you're like, maybe I did something, or I'm not enough this, or I'm too much that. And you don't need a person in your life that's not going to appreciate you for who you are. Like, what's the point in that? It's like, you don't like me? Tough.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Stop bending yourself in half so someone will like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We're going to run through 6 here quick because we're running out of
Yep.
time today, but 6s also in the
Yep.
compliant or responsive stance. And for them, it's the pain of uncertainty, which I think every human being has to some extent. But for 6s, that is what they're
Yeah.
trying to solve for, is the pain of uncertainty. How can I be prepared for everything? How can I, like, be buttoned up and, I don't know, I'm going to say prepared again. Yeah, I was trying to think of a better word, but like, right? Like, how do I have all the things with me at all times that anybody could possibly ever want or need, in case the zombie apocalypse happens? I don't know. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels like safety and security to them to have all of that. And so
Do
it
you
is a
want,
little bit of the finding a way to be willing to be uncertain, to let things unfold.
well, their pain pattern is a little bit of like trying to like outthink, out prepare fear.
Yeah.
It's like a hamster wheel.
I wonder, the way you just said that, I'm like, I wonder how many 6s have one survivor, for example.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah.
I have to read you the reframe that I have written for this because it sounds like a bad fortune cookie. Like those fortune cookies that aren't fortunes. Like this really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like disclaimer. Safety isn't found by eliminating risk. This is a bad fortune cookie.
Safety isn't found by eliminating risk. Yeah, that's
Like, is it too profound or not profound at all? I don't know.
I mean, I think, like, I think it's trying to be profound in the
I don't know
in
why I
the
wrote that
wrote
down,
that
but
down. Well, yeah, I mean, like, the profound side of it is there's no way that you can make yourself 100% safe and eliminate all of the risk. It's not
Yeah.
possible. Like every day that you wake up, like it's possible if you get out of bed, something could happen. There's risk. It's just that's part of being human.
Aliens, you know?
Yeah. Like,
They're out there.
yeah. Like, there's no way to completely avoid it. Every time you get in a car, every time you step
Yep.
out of your house, there's risk. There's like this safety idea of safety is actually not ever 100% possible. So,
Yep.
yeah. So, I think we landed on it
We
was
made
profound.
it.
Yes, we made it. We made it through all 9 numbers. We kind of rushed at the end. Super sorry, 6s. But we did make it through all 9. It is just curious too, right? Like what it takes for someone to be like willing in their own life. It's a curious topic to me, and you and I talk about it all the time, and there have been people
With the willing.
Yep. Yep. There have been people in my life that I have desperately wanted things for that were just not willing, and nothing you can do about that.
Nope.
Yeah.
No. All right.
All right.
Like, share, comment, subscribe.
Send us
Listen
some
next
questions.
And all the weeks before, and leave us a review.
Leave us a review. All that stuff
And tell
helps
us
the
you love us.
podcast. Tell Tana you love her. She needs
Yeah,
that.
tell me you love me. Feed me and tell me I'm pretty.
Anyway, on that note, also we're kicking around merch ideas. A couple people, after last week were like, "Hey, yeah, I'm interested." We'll figure it out eventually. Just like we'll figure out a retreat eventually. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. All
All
right.
right.
Until next time.
I'll
See
talk
ya.
to you later, Tana. Bye.
Bye.